one of the worst feelings you can have is knowing you're heading into summer and you don't seem to have enough client work revenue that's going to come in, and it feels a little bit scary. And I've been there. I want to talk about and share with you how I got through a very ropey patch, exactly what I did to get through it. So welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dean, founder of Maverick, and we help you win clients online systematically. So none of this hype, none of this chopping and changing. We actually do it the way that's systemized. Now, a few years ago, I was approaching the end of the month and it was close to summer, and we had a few customer payments, you know, the purchase order game where people don't give you the purchase order and you're trying to get it paid and it doesn't come in and all of this stuff. So we had a few things like that where payments were delayed. We had a few projects that kind of didn't go forward as we thought, and they got pushed back to September. And we also had a couple of customers cancel their services because they said they'll come back in September. So we went from things ticking along to like a perfect storm of money coming in late, some projects not kicking off on time, and some customers reducing their spend for a period. And this all accumulated into 10 days away from the end of the month. I was 10K adrift from making payroll. And you know, I felt the panic. Because I was like, what am I going to do here? How do I get this in? And I started scrambling to go, right, can I sell some more stuff? Can I get some more deals over the line? Can I do discounts? All this kind of crazy stuff to kind of close that gap. But none of it was really working. And I couldn't let people down. I really couldn't let people down. And the context to this, by the way, is my business had just come out of like a quite painful split between me and my business partner. And so I was not in the best financial shape personally. You know, 13 grand doesn't sound like a lot. You could borrow it, put it on a credit card or whatever. But I wasn't in a great financial position myself. I'd sold a property to invest in the business. So all of that was going on in the background. So it wasn't the best time to have a financial pinch, shall we say. So anyway, I'm like, I've got to do something. And one of the most powerful things, one of the most amazingly powerful things about real big problems hitting you, and I can say this now, but it didn't feel this way at the time, is the focus. The focus it brings, and how you cannot tinker around with a lot of bullshit when you've got a real, visible, painful, in-your-face problem. I'd quite happily tinker with websites, play with Canva, and do all of this stuff, procrastinate basically, look busy, when actually I should be really focused on how do I close this hole. And that pain came. Yeah, maybe I did take my eye off the ball. Maybe I was a bit complacent. Maybe I was doing things that weren't important, but they felt important. Yeah, how many times have you done this? You fill your calendar, fill your day up with bullshit stuff that makes zero difference to your business, but you do it anyway, right? Maybe I was guilty of doing that. Maybe you're guilty of doing that right now. Who knows? But that 13 grand hole brought incredible amounts of clarity about what I needed to do. I needed to get customers, I needed to get them in the next week or so, and I needed them to pay in the next week. And it was 13 grand I needed. It's amazing how much focus you get when you have a cliff edge like that, right? I wouldn't recommend you living your life so you end up with cliff edges in it. But when you get there, it really does focus you on what really is important. So I was there and I was like, okay, the only way out of this is through. I can either sit here and let this situation develop, paralyze myself and go, there's nothing I can do, throw my hands up in the air and give up, or I can go at the problem. I can attack the problem. And my go-to is always attack the problem, right? Sometimes my personality is so kind of like that, I attack it too much when I should wait a little bit, but attack the problem. So I went and deduced a couple of things. I need to get people to pay me money, and I need to get people to pay me money quickly. That means it has to be an absolute no-brainer. It has to be something they can easily say, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Easy yes. I need an easy peasy yes. So, the logic is, do I try and sell a 10 quid thing to 1,300 people? Do I sell one thing for 13 grand? Yeah, you start to play these games in your head. And the logic is, well, it's easy for people to say yes to 10 quid, £10, but actually, how do I get 1,300 people to say yes to £10? So I was trading off like low price to volume. And if I got that wrong, I could go low price, but then the volume pressure becomes difficult. So I had to find this sweet spot, because if I went one thing for 13 grand, like the decision making, it's not an easy yes. People have to consider it. The people are not going to part with 13 grand to, somebody, in a week, right? They're not going to do it. It's too rushed. It would be somebody giving me 13 grand in a week. It would be something that's literally somebody already massively down the buying journey. So I needed to pick a price that was great value. I needed to sell something for great value that was easy to say yes to and didn't require high consideration. So here's what I did. I put together what I now call an easy yes offer. It was a one-page offer that basically solved a specific problem, and it was LinkedIn content. And I said I would write them 3 months? It wasn't 3 full months worth of content, but the equivalence of 3 months worth of content. It was 6 posts. 36 custom-written LinkedIn posts, dirt cheap. And it was £1,200. £1,200 for 33 months worth of LinkedIn content. And I wrote a one-pager about this content, and there was a mix of lead gen content, there was a bit of awareness content, a bit of nurture content in there, and I wrote this one-pager. Very, very simple for people to say yes, and it was, I think, £1,200. There was a bit of VAT in there as well, so I'll use the £1,200 just for simplicity point of view. Right, I wrote that one-pager, and I sent it out and offered it to 76 people in a particular format. So there was one-pager, 2 posts, 2 DMs, and a bit of engagement. That's all it was. And I put it out. 76 people. Yeah. I sold 10 of them. Yeah. And like I said, it's a little bit more than £1,200 because there's VAT to round it off, but it was just there. I did the 13 grand with 10 customers because the offer was easy to say yes to, and I had a process to work that too. I wasn't just going and spamming out an offer. I was actually really focused on a set of activities to warm that person up over a week so that I could close it within a week. So I did it. And I have used that process with my clients. I've used it myself since, literally a documented process. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put a link wherever you're listening or watching this. I will put a link below and you can go click it and grab hold of it. What I nicknamed and packaged up into a 7-day client system. 2 posts, 1 PDF or 1 doc, 1 landing page, however you want to do it, a bit of engagement and 2 DMs. That's it. And I've used that process over and over and over and over again. My clients have used it about 170 people have used it. Primarily as a stopgap. It's not the way to sell long term. It's not the way to sell all the time. That said, if you were running it, you could, but you'd want to sell something more high value. Now, what I did afterwards with those 10 people was I actually upsold them to a full-blown service where I would do their LinkedIn for them and generate the leads and do all of that stuff. So you may think, well, how does this work? Well, big consulting firms do use this method all the time. They're doing this all the time. What they do is they actually do exactly the same thing. They do a small piece of work, sell a small piece of work into a company, and that gives them the opportunity to get their foot in the door, build some trust so that they can sell more stuff into that business. It's a widely accepted practice. Some people call it a gateway offer. Some people call it, what do they call it? I'm going to forget now. It's a gateway offer. It's land and expand. That's it, land and expand. But what I'd done is basically done a land and expand offer in a short space of time to get through a gap, to close a gap. And you can do this. I call it a 7-day client system. You can download my templates if you want. I'll put the link in the description wherever you're listening or watching to this. But it is really simple. 2 DMs, 2 posts, bit of engagement, and a one-pager. No website. You can make a website if you want to, but a lot of the times I talk to people, websites are just an excuse for not doing something. I'll just tinker and update my website. No, you want to avoid doing work. You want to avoid taking action and all of that stuff. It's a really simple process. So what is that easy yes offer? So for me, it was 36 posts. Yeah, 36 posts. For you, it might be an audit. You might review their strategy on something. You might do some one-to-one sessions on a particular topic. That's your easy yes offer. Something people can quickly go, yeah, that's fine. And it's not a huge amount of money that people can just pay it on card or bank transfer it to you. If the price point is higher, you create a longer consideration period. And so if you're trying to close a gap, people will want to think about it for longer. So I always recommend to people under 50 is a safe bet. Under 1,000 really is a good move. But you have to address that kind of volume level. You don't want a situation where, to make £1,000, you need 20 customers. Yeah, it's just too much work. Yeah. Now, I've done some stuff like that, but I've done it on the basis I can upsell people. If you're trying to close a gap, the initial sale has to actually easily tot up. So if you need 100 people to close a 13 grand gap, that's a lot of work in a short space of time. You're putting yourself under a lot of pressure. But 10 people's doable. 10 people's easy to do. So, you can do this process. If you're facing a gap in the summer, I don't recommend. This is why I'm such a big proponent of building systems in your business to actually market and convert and not do the kind of make it up as you go along, jump from tactic to tactic. Building systems builds predictability. If you're constantly trying and doing different things and jumping around, you're never going to get predictability. You have to pick a system and build it. But if you're facing a pinch point, you also need a system to close a pinch point, a set of processes that will allow you to close a pinch point. And most people don't do this. So I built my 7-day client system. It closed because of a very simple thing. I had a well-defined offer that was easy to say yes to. It was mapped out. I knew who I was targeting for that offer. That offer was built around the target audience. It wasn't built and then how do I market to somebody? It was like, what's the problem I'm solving for them and mapping that out. Then I had a rigid, strict system of implementation to get to 76 people to close that deal, close that gap. So it was an offer. It was an audience, then a clear set of messages and interactions, and then just doing the work. And it was literally it was a Google Doc, but literally a Google Doc. There was no nice fancy design in it. It was, copy text on plain white background. It was, boring. Text, a 1-page offer, and literally 2 posts, 2 DMs, and some engagement with 76 prospects. That's it. And if you're facing pinch point, if you're finding getting clients and leads difficult, simplify. You're overcomplicating it, whether it be at the system end, at the message end, at the targeting end, the offer end, it's overcomplicated. The more complicated you make it, the harder it is to sell. The simpler you make it, the easier it is to sell. And I've proven this with my clients over and over and over again. I look at what they're selling and it's like, I have no idea what they're doing, right? So you need systems to build your revenue so you're not chasing your tail, you're not overworking, you're not panicking, and you need processes you need to follow. But if you're facing the pinch point, go and check out my 7-day client system. You can pick it up for, I think, $48 or something like that. And it's got all the templates, everything in there, the post templates, some GPTs to help you craft everything, your one-pager, your posts. It's all in there. But you need systems to sell. That's how I closed a K gap in my revenue in 7 days.